from morn to night, my friend. But is there, for a night, a resting place? Yes, a roof for when the slow, dark hours begin. May not the darkness hide it from my face? You cannot miss this inn. Shall I meet other wayfarers at night? Yes, those who have gone before. Then must I knock or call when just in sight? They will not keep you standing at the door. Shall I find comfort, travel sore and weak? Of all your labor, you shall find the sum. Will there be beds for me and all who seek? Yea, beds for all who come. The title of this poem is Uphill. I choose to begin the words that I share with you today with this writing because it so accurately captures a sense of completion and that accompanied my mother's passing. As I stand before you all today, my heart is full. And this abundance originates from the humility and humble sacrifice that was my mother's life. My mother, Evelyn Virginia Mercer, walked this world blended into the backdrop of everyday life. I make this statement not from shame or embarrassment, but from a point of pride. Evelyn did not seek fame or fortune. She did not look for the spotlight. She simply did not wish to draw attention to herself. My mother's life may have been seen as a portrait of simplicity, but it was so much more than that. It was an example of the collection of events of her time on earth that helped her to develop her own unique philosophy of day-to-day living. Evelyn Knight was born on Flag Day, June 14th, 1935, beginning her life in the midst of the Great Depression. She found herself with her family looking up at the hill that lay before them. It was a hard scrabble life for sure, for Richard and Florence Knight and all of their children. There was Jack, Goldie, Alice, Beverly, Evelyn, Ruthie, Eleanor, and of course Richie. I have always enjoyed hearing the stories told over the years of the challenges that they all had to overcome through self-sacrifice, persistence, creativity, humor, love, and just plain old work ethic. My mother loved her parents dearly and enjoyed sharing the different perspectives to living that each of them shared with her and all of her siblings. Not having the luxury of financial security meant that common necessities would come from the teamwork of these two philosophies. My mother's father, Richard, was apparently quite skilled in the art of bartering. Some of you know what I'm going to say. Family legend has it that he could leave the house in the morning with a chicken and return at the end of the day with a horse. In fact, one of my favorite stories of all time of my grandfather, Richard Knight, is when he left the house in the morning in a newer car that they were able to purchase with a couple of bags of corn, only to return later that day with the back seat removed, the head of a donkey protruding from one rear window, and the ragged tail waving in the breeze from the other. My mother's mom, Florence, was a bit more practical. Keeping up with the laundry and the cooking for a large home filled with so many children, it would have been enough to keep several housekeepers busy. I recall talking with Florence about her ability to raise all of her children in such challenging times. And of course, her simple answer was that she just did what was necessary to do. In an example, she shared that she worried about the kids not having proper nutrition. So she always made it a point to cook their meals in skillets. It would, on occasion, place nails in with the eggs to ensure that the kids would get the iron that they needed. Of course, removing the nails before serving to the kids. One step forward, up the hill. Florence succeeded with humble dignity, as she also took on the laundry and cleaning for many other homes in her town. Florence was also a woman of strong faith, as we've already heard today. She shared this gift with all of her children and grandchildren. My mother, Evelyn, she learned well. Growing up squeezed by the grip of the Great Depression meant that the hill would be steep for Evelyn and the others. But the strength of numbers and unconditional love made the early climb a little less daunting. With a very large house and little options available for heat on those bitter cold nights of Maine winters, it meant that Evelyn and her sister Ruthie would cuddle in the same bed, and their favorite dog would be draped over their legs and feet to keep them warm. One step forward, up the hill. Evelyn made a pact with her sister Ruthie. They were very, very close. That they would be what they each called easy keepers. They would not add to the burden of their parents. Ruthie and Evelyn would also alternate nights, taking turns, rubbing each other's back as they told each other princess stories, giving each other the comfort that can be found in simple imagination. One step forward, up the hill. The Knight family was musically talented. Richard on the fiddle, Jack on the guitar and mandolin. Oh, I wish I could hear that mandolin again. Evelyn and Goldie playing Hawaiian guitar, and the others in the family would share their gift of voice. Many Saturday nights found the neighbors drawn to the Knight's porch or barn for song and dance, and perhaps a little whiskey. With music, they fought back the dark cloud of the Depression. One step forward, up the hill. The talents of the family band sometimes brought them to the Portland shipyard, where they shared their musical gifts with the city folk. But in time, the family would be tested, as they would have to say goodbye to a cherished member of the band. Sister Eleanor suffered a condition in her little heart and journeyed to heaven at the tender age of 12. This loss was devastating for Evelyn and all of her siblings. Her mother, Florence, true to form, began the healing of the family in a tender act of walking to where she lay and lovingly and sweetly combed and braided her hair and decorated her in ribbons. In so doing, she taught my mother and all of her siblings a powerful lesson in dignity, respect, and the love that would remain with my mother for her lifetime. One step forward, up the hill. There has never been a day in my life that a photograph of Eleanor has not been prominently displayed on my mother's wall, no matter where her residency might be. When my mother was 16 years of age, she and two of her siblings were involved in a terrible car accident. Coming home from an afternoon of swimming, they were met head-on by a young man with vengeance in his heart. His actions were intentional, and the results for my mother and the others in the car were devastating. With countless broken bones and other internal injuries, my mother lay on the road under the twisted metal. Living beyond that moment was not expected, but she did. One step forward up the hill. She was hospitalized in Portland for nearly 3 months and was told that she would most likely not walk again. But she did. One step forward up the hill. In fact, her desire to dance was a driving force in her recovery. Not long after her recovery, a handsome gentleman who was serving his country in the Navy won her heart, and they were married. Byron and Evelyn decided early in their marriage to begin a family. They were initially met with disappointment in the form of a succession of miscarriages. She was told by the doctors that she would not be able to have children as the damage of the accident was just too much to overcome. She proceeded to prove them wrong again, giving birth to 4 children. One step forward, up the hill. In the intervals between these challenging events were many happy times, singing, dancing, family gatherings, and all those loving pets. In recent times, my mother amazed us all with her resiliency and her no-quit attitude. Adopting to new homes, coming back from countless injury. The broken hip, the broken vertebrae in her neck, the broken collarbone, the broken ribs, the broken nose, all of those bruises and concussions, all the result of frequent falling. The staff at the Casco Inn would joke with her about the possibility of wrapping her up in bubble wrap. And they said if it sounded like popcorn was popping in her room, they knew she was down. Of course, my mother's response to that was, well, how can I drink my coffee if I'm all wrapped up in that stuff? Coffee was her life's blood. Quite simply put, my mother paid her dues. Each setback was the seed of yet another comeback. The strength of that little body was to be admired by all who witnessed her challenges. I am so blessed to have had the opportunity to tell her how proud I was of her amazing tenacity in the face of relentless adversity. I remember the moment that prompted me to come home to my wife, Heidi, and to say, I think that she took the boxing gloves off today. It was not a moment of defeat. Instead, it was a moment of acceptance, recognition that she had truly given it all that she had. It was summed up in these simple words. I want you to take my pocketbook home with you. One giant leap up that hill. My mother left the staff at the Casco Inn with many memorable moments. Some to make them smile, some to make them bite their lip and roll their eyes. I wish that I could have been there in the room at the moment when Deb realized that Evelyn could no longer walk. Music was playing on the CD player, and Deb said that, well, if you can't walk, then we'll dance back to your chair, remembering that my mother loved to dance. Deb supported her as they spun around and around the room and finally reaching their goal in her recliner chair. A gentle pat on the back from Evelyn was the reward, with a very special memory that Deb shared with all of us. The staff at the Casco Inn and the staff at Beacon Hospice were and are fantastic. We are forever grateful to Pastor Stephen Espling from Beacon Hospice for volunteering his time and travel away from his own family in order to help our family with this service. My mother's needs were many and perhaps beyond their mission, but we were able to keep her where she was comfortable and settled because of their commitment. Me and my family thank each and every one of the staff who showed their patience and love for my mother. The final goodbyes for Evelyn were shared with all of her children at her bedside. Her hands were held, her legs were rubbed, and she also had the support of a very special friend, Carolyn, who prayed for her safe passage to heaven. With many smiles and dancing hands, I'll never forget the dancing hands, Evelyn listened to old recordings of her family playing their favorite songs. She peacefully left us so as to join again with the family that she has missed for all these years. The summit of the hill was achieved. It must have been a sight for her to see. After we had chosen the photograph of Evelyn to be shared in the Bridgeton News, I learned the story of the picture from her sister Ruthie. Their mother Florence wanted formal pictures of the two girls and had somehow scraped up the money to pay for a sitting with a local photographer. Because there was no money left for new clothes, each girl was given a suitable men's shirt for the portrait. The shirts were most likely from their father's closet. I believe that this choice of picture is the perfect choice as it symbolizes the eloquence of a simple but wonderful life. It is in this spirit and from my mother's true love for country music that I would like to play a song with my brother, and it will always remind me of her. The lyrics to the song are in your flyer that my wonderful sister Linda was able to put together. And what we're hoping is that this could be a sing-along with all of us. The song is called Coat of Many Colors. Some of you may have heard it before. If you'll just give us a moment to set up, we'd just like everyone to sing along with us.